Didn't kill my son. I didn't murder him. I didn't poison him. I didn't harm him in any way.
What bothers you the most?
That I sit here accused of murdering my own 5-year-old little boy, which I did not do. I do not have Munchausen by proxy. I seeked help for him diligently because I was his advocate.
How did your son die?
His death certificate says homicide.
Hey guys, I'm Fancy.
And I'm Brandy.
And this is Murder by Design. Murder by Design. So, Brandy, oh my God, have you heard about this latest serial killer that they're talking about right now down in
No, I haven't.
Florida?
Tell me.
My God. Okay. So his name is Stanley Mossberg, but he goes by Woo Woo. I don't know. That's like the weirdest thing. He actually has it.
He goes by what?
Woo Woo. W-O-O. It's tattooed across his back like crazy.
Is he like a big burly dude? I'm just curious. Look him up.
He's a real skinny guy. He's kind of tall and skinny. He's bald. No, he's not like a big burly dude, which is really funny. But
I was kind of hoping he'd be big and burly with the name Woo Woo. That would just be funny.
I know, right? I know. Well, he was arrested in. Let's see here. Where is it? I was just reading all about it. He was arrested in Polk County down in Florida.
Okay.
SWAT was called in. They arrested him in what they thought was a triple murder, but he had been barricading himself in the house for hours. But when he was arrested, he basically told them that the people that they were arresting him for were victims 7 and 8. Now that has 100% been verified, but I mean, okay.
So this is just his words of what he's saying
so far, yeah. But they're
claims to fame. His claims to fame.
Yeah. So right now, this is the list of charges he's being held on in Florida: assault, armed burglary, tampering and fabricating with physical evidence, burglary, no battery, assault weapon though. Attempted first-degree murder, there's 3 of those charges. Then there's 2 first-degree murder charges. Then there's a grand theft auto. There's a resisting officer with violence. Then there's an armed false imprisonment.
Good Lord.
Because he held the 2 roommates that he was charged with killing. He held them prisoner, and he told the one guy he wasn't going to kill him because God told him not to, and thankfully that guy didn't get killed, but he had killed the girlfriend.
So God told him to kill the girlfriend, but not the other dude.
Yes, and then there's several resisting arrests. I mean, it's crazy. And then, so let me read a little bit from this article I just found on him. Alleged spree killer Stanley Woo Woo Mossberg.
Woo Woo cracks
I know. People slain in home were number 7 and 8. And this is from the CNN Wire service. And it says, an alleged spree killer arrested Tuesday reportedly said that the 2 people found dead in a Florida home the previous day were number 7 and 8. Stanley Woo Woo Mossberg, 35.
I'm not going to be able to get over that name. I'm just saying.
Was taken into custody a block from the site of the Winter Haven double homicide. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said that a man who returned to his home from work around 10:30 p.m. Sunday found Mossberg inside and one of his roommates slain. The other roommate, a woman, was tied up but still alive at that point. According to Judd, Mossberg repeatedly told the man, "I'm not going to kill you because God told me not to." He kept that man captive overnight. The following afternoon, telling the man he had killed the female roommate, Mossberg fled the scene in the woman's car. And after the man called the police, the car was found abandoned nearby. On Tuesday around 5:10 a.m., Mossberg was taken into custody a block from the murder scene in a house belonging to an acquaintance of his, the sheriff's office said. Mossberg had reportedly told the man who was held captive that the two people murdered in the house were number 7 and 8. So they're calling him a spree killer. And then the sheriff, actually, in his statement, it was kind of interesting what he had to say. Where did I see it? Hold on, let me find it here. His statement was interesting. So this is what he said. The Sheriff Gary Judd said, Stanley Mossberg told our victim he wanted to be a serial killer. He said he likes killing people. We know he's killed at least 3 people, and he tried to kill our deputies last night. This guy needs the death penalty if there's ever anyone who needed the death penalty.
According to law enforcement, 35-year-old Stanley Woo Woo Mossberg went on a killing spree.
This is a spree killer. This is a man that said he enjoys killing.
The multi-state murder suspect started on October 2nd in Greenville, Tennessee. Police say he killed Christopher Scott Short and left his body outside of a laundromat.
When you kill people with a knife, it's up close, it's personal, it's based in anger, revenge, evil.
Authorities say he then fled to his hometown of Spartanburg, where he was last seen in a stolen car on October 4th. The Polk County Sheriff's Office says they received a 911 call from a Winter Haven man on October 13th. The victim claimed that Mossberg killed his 2 roommates and then held him captive for nearly a day. Authorities say Mossberg fled the scene and barricaded himself into a house down the street. He was captured this morning by the Polk County Sheriff's Office after a 7-hour standoff.
Make no mistake about it, you can't legislate evil out of society. This guy needs the death penalty if there's ever been a person that needs the death penalty.
Stanley Mossberg is being charged with multiple counts of attempted and first-degree murder. He will have his first appearance hearing tomorrow afternoon. Be sure to check back for updates as the investigation continues. I'm reporting in studio. Katie Turner, Count on 2.
Grady Judd has done a press conference in the last couple of days. I think it came out today, and there's been a couple articles. So you guys should definitely check it out. But it's Stanley Mossberg woo-woo. So
the woo-woo. I mean, the woo-woo. The woo-woo.
It's really written in like some crazy script along the backbone, like across the back, like right here, all across the back of his.
We're definitely going to have to be checking that out a little bit.
Yeah,
that's kind of interesting.
We'll be updating you guys as we get updates on it. I'd like to see if it really is, that he's done 7 and 8. I mean, there was even an alleged that he did something in Tennessee, and his sister helped him get on a bus in Georgia to Florida, so we don't know if she's involved. I mean, it's all kind of crazy. These stories, they're always so crazy.
They really are.
I know.
So we need I don't know. The state hospitals for the mentally insane should be bigger than what they are. Because I mean, really, these people are it just doesn't make sense. But
yeah,
the other case that has my attention right now, that I've been following quite a bit since last week, and I've actually shared a few things on it in the True Crime Dish on Facebook, is the Rodney Reed case.
Right.
Rodney Reed has been sentenced to death for the murder of a woman in Bastrop, Texas, which home state.
Now that's the one that Dr. Phil just got involved in.
Yeah, Dr. Phil just got involved with it, and his execution date is November 20th, I believe. Okay. And they are petitioning to have his execution stopped and get him a new trial. A lot of the evidence that I have seen and read that they have discovered with this case, her fiance was a white cop. Rodney Reed is a black man.
I see.
And she was seeing him while she was engaged and ended up dead and brutally killed. There were some of his sperm found in her body, but not like, you would expect a fresh rape victim to have
Right,
sperm.
you
It
said
was
something about it being like just
three.
heads.
It's like
They
called it like a really long name, but it was basically, they broke it down in layman's terms like three sperm head were found in her body, which would be consistent when having sex within the last 2-3 days. And he admits that they had sex, they had been having sex for a while. And she had admitted to a friend of hers that she was seeing a black man named Rodney. And there's a lot of evidence, even with this cop, he really has some not so nice things in his record. I mean, he's even been to prison for kidnapping and rape of of a lady that he put in his patrol car. And I believe it was a domestic dispute or something like that, and he was taking her away and put her in handcuffs and took her off out in the country and
he's still a cop?
No, she filed charges. He did go to jail.
Okay, so he's no longer.
Yeah, no.
I was like,
no,
what?
no. Now he's one of those converted Christians from prison and.
First at 6, a former Georgetown police officer released from prison after serving 9.5 years for kidnapping and raping a woman he'd arrested. The family of his murdered fiancée is cheering his new freedom, insisting he's not a killer.
Jimmy is not guilty of this. He didn't murder my sister. Jimmy loved my sister and was going to be a good husband.
But not all members of Lacey Spears' family are convinced. He was the first person of interest in his fiancee's murder, and attorneys for the man who was convicted of the crime, Rodney Reed, are trying to reignite that suspicion. KXAN's Brittany Glass traveled to Huntsville for Fennell's release.
More than 20 years after her sister's murder, Deborah Oliver says her family has been silent long enough.
They were very happy together. They were looking forward to getting married. And never have we thought that Jimmy was guilty of murdering my sister, ever.
Loved ones of Lacey Spears say they stand by the man she was about to marry.
Let him go have a life and leave him alone, absolutely.
Even though Jimmy Fennell would go on to commit a separate violent crime.
We know that he made a mistake. He's served his time. He's paid his commitment to society, and it's time for him to start a new life.
Oliver says the back and forth speculation about her sister's killer needs to stop.
To constantly have people look at you as if, did you kill your fiance when you know that you didn't? I can't even imagine what that would be like.
But another family member doesn't see things that way. Cousin Heather Stobbs was disowned after supporting Rodney Reed, the man sentenced to death for Stites' murder. Stobbs says there are too many unanswered questions in the case. Questions about evidence.
If you can't have the time of death, then you don't have Rodney Reed doing it. You have Jimmy Fennell doing it. And that just makes more sense.
Stobbs says Reed deserves another trial.
Why can't it just be redone? You can't put somebody to death and then just wonder and wonder and wonder.
But both women agree on one thing. The focus should be on the victims.
Aside from Rodney Reed, that there's another victim, and it's Jimmy Fennell's victim.
Too long we've been trying to fight for justice for Rodney, who didn't deserve justice at all. We need justice for Stacey. We need justice for the victims.
In Huntsville, Brittany Glass, KXAN News.
Rodney Reed was convicted of Stites' murder and sentenced to death. An appeals court stayed his execution just days before it was to take place in 2015, and the stay remains. A visiting judge who presided over Reed's latest hearing in October made a recommendation to the Court of Criminal Appeals that he not get a new trial. A final decision from the court is expected soon. And this is a fascinating case, one the KXAN investigators have covered in depth for years. We invite you to take the deep dive yourself with our special report on murder in Lost Pines. You'll find that in the Investigate section at KXAN.com.
Living for God. Jailhouse conversion at its best. But we do plan on digging into that a little bit more. I want to get all the details out there once we're through with Lacey's case, and look at the facts, judge for yourself. If you think that he's wrongfully convicted, write Governor Abbott and help us stop his execution, get him a new trial. They're not even asking for his thing to be thrown out completely. They just said give him a new trial.
Yeah.
That's all he wants is a new
trial. But they've
trial.
asked a couple of times. It's been denied, hasn't it? It's been denied.
I think it's gone a couple of times, yes. There's some new stuff that they've just come out with on evidence that they're taking and asking Governor Abbott to step in. His execution was actually delayed the last time, I believe, and I don't remember when that exact date was, but he had an execution date and it was pushed back and held off for evidentiary purposes or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. With the evidence I've seen, he needs a new trial. And he's not a choir boy. He's not a choir boy. He's got some little skeletons, and he admits that. And he says, I wasn't innocent of a lot of things, but I was innocent of this. And so he needs a new trial. He needs a new trial. In my opinion, he needs a new trial.
Sure.
But we will cover that some more in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, guys. So last week, we started getting into the Lacey Spears case. I thought this was going to be a quick thing.
We were going to do all of it today.
We were going to do last week's episode and this week's episode, and then do
have our podcast
on the podcast. But no, this is one chapter of the book.
We haven't even gotten past. He's 9 months old, I think, at this point where we're at with what you and I have today. So,
like one chapter of this book that we're reading, the My Sweetest Angel, by John. That's the one by John Glatt, right? I don't remember if it's
Glatt, but I don't remember the first name.
It's John Glatt.
My Sweet Angel or my Angel or something like that.
No, it's My Sweet Angel. It's by John Glatt. And it's really good. I've been listening to it on audiobook. I don't have time to sit down and read anymore like I used to. I can read my fiction I have to read fiction. I can't do that like listening to it, but I can listen to like true crime cases and things like that on audiobooks. I don't know. I'm old school. I like to hold my books, but I've been listening to this while I'm at work and stuff. And boy, man, I've got notes upon notes upon notes upon notes. One chapter, I think I took like 13 pages of notes.
Yeah, I have to go buy new notebooks. I just can't.
I have to buy new notebooks. I told my husband today we needed to buy stock.
This is all Lacey.
I've got these.
I'm not even through the book.
Yeah. And then I'm working on Susan Powell too, and that's
right. That's another crazy one. And then
boy.
And then I started my other hometown case for Lisa Wilbur, and that's a whole other notebook I have going. I'm like,
right. And then last night I watched the one about the girls.
And I told you, don't tell me no more.
I'm telling you, I told you about this yesterday. I told you about the Slenderman girls, the girls that were in. And they both got. They finally got their sentencing. They've been through a lot. Those poor girls. Like, I feel like on all sides, all three of those girls will be traumatized.
Well, and it's really hard. You're looking at these are children. These aren't. What were they? 13.
The one girl. Yeah, they were 12 and 13. The one girl was
13.
Schizophrenia. So she sees things. She has delusions.
It's just really hard. They're guilty, but they're still children.
Thankfully they went to mental health facilities instead of. They were tried as an adult because the judge ruled that the reason he wanted to try them as adults was because if they tried them as children, then at 18 they're automatically released, and there would be nothing.
Expunged, yeah.
There would be, not even that. What he was concerned about was there would be no continuing mandated care, because they would just be released at 18,
right? And
they wouldn't really go through a whole lot of care because they'd be held in like a juvenile facility. So it wouldn't be like they would be getting, a lot of mental care. So They tried them as adults, and they both were convicted to the mental health facility, state prison. So that's good, I think. I don't know. I'm always worried about those because a lot of those are really bad, but this one seemed to be a good. When I looked it up, it seemed to be a pretty.
I'm hoping that they put them in a facility that actually is helping and not just drugging and keeping them doped up,
right?
To where they're not getting because the whole purpose for me, the whole purpose of somebody going into any kind of facility should be to come out better than when they went in,
right?
And it's the same with the prison system. The prison system, when we put them in prison, they came out worse. They're not going. They're not rehabilitating them in there. And of course, that's not really how prison is set up, but maybe it should be.
Yeah.
Maybe it would stop a lot of repeat offenders because they actually get help.
Well, that was one of the things I said in the Gypsy case was that I really felt that she needs to be going to mandated real counseling, intensive counseling. And I think that that's one of the things, when we talked with Dawn and she did that whole thing with us, she had mentioned about how, prisons for people that are in a lesser, like an impoverished state and everything. Their chances of reoffending are greater because when they are released, they're not set up to actually come out and not reoffend. And so I don't take a lot of what she says as truthful, but that was very truthful in the fact that these prisoners come out and I don't feel like they are rehabilitated in a way to set them up to come out and be successful and not end up.
Well, that's why there's so many reoffenders.
Well, we're the number one country. We're the number one country for reoffending because we don't have a system that's set up to actually rehabilitate. It's punitive, not rehabilitative.
So hopefully these girls are going to get what they need so that they can come back out and learn from their crimes.
Yeah. And we'll be covering that case on the podcast too. So we've got, I swear to God, we've got like 200 cases already written down that we want to cover. And it's like, which one do you choose? Because they're all so interesting, and I'm like, well, which one can we do like in a mini podcast for our Patreon people? But so far I've not found any.
Well, we dig into one thinking it'll be many, and it turns into like a whole bunch. And so,
yeah, exactly.
Our poor investigative team, they're just like, really, another name, really?
Right. Please, I can't request any more records. What are you talking about?
Can you pause for like a day? No, I can't.
So this is part of our Moms Who Kill series. We are going to kind of switch it up from week to week instead of just staying on this series over and over and over again. We'll have some things about serial killers. We're going to do some dads that kill, missing persons
cases.
Missing persons, kidnappings, things like that. So we're going to try and cover a wealth of different things so that you guys kind of get a little bit of all kinds of different stuff. But let's kind of dig in tonight. So last week we talked about Lacey, and it was kind of right up until the point that she had Garnett, but we really hadn't gotten into her having Garnett yet. So we're going to start off talking about Chris Hill, which is Garnett's father, and about how he felt their relationship was. It was very strange. He said she was not very affectionate. I
had to replay it to see if I heard it right, that he called her, he felt like her behavior was predator-like, that he called her a predator, watching her with the other baby, John, carrying him back and forth, and she wouldn't talk to nobody, wouldn't look to nobody, and he said that she just reminded him of a predator.
Right.
And then it's a few days later, he's helping her put a bassinet together and they have sex.
Yeah. And then she like tells him she really likes him, and she wants to go on with this, and then kicks him out. So, and she would never stay the night down at his house.
No, always went back to hers.
Come to her house.
And he said he was very uncomfortable in her apartment, that he just felt weird.
Yeah. And I guess she posted tons and tons of pictures all over MySpace. So I'm hoping that I have somebody looking to see if we can still find that MySpace, if it's still up. Because I guess it's like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures of these kids. Like there was one where the kid we were talking about before, John turned 1, and she posted 367 photos in an album on MySpace called Classic Baby John, and captioned many of them with Mommy Lacey. And a friend asked her if he was hers, and she replied, yes, he's the love of my life. And that mom thought that was a misunderstanding at first until she actually saw it online. But I mean, she still kept letting John stay overnight. So I just really don't understand.
If I'm thinking you're too obsessed with my child, I have the responsibility to stop that.
Right. I mean, and she's calling this her child,
Right.
So So in March, a friend of hers, Shauna, which is one of the ones that had some of the boys that she was watching, Shauna, the one that she went out to dinner with her husband and Chris, came to visit her in the hospital. But there was no baby Spears in the nursery.
Right.
So
she changed
was
the
like,
name because she didn't want the dad to find him.
yeah. So that's what she said. She said, well, I used an alias in case Chris tried to find them. Wow. And her story starts with this baby 4 days. 4
days.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3,
he
4.
is 4 days old, and they go to the ER because he's pulling on his ears. Now, I'm sorry. I've had 3 children. Never once at 4 days seen them pulling their ears. Usually they're a few months old for that, and where they find their ears.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. No, I mean, that's
maybe it happens. Maybe it happens, but I never seen it.
It is a common symptom of ear infections in babies, but not, I don't think that young. Like, I think that's a wild statement. He supposedly had
for so soon. I mean, at 4 days old, he hasn't been out of the hospital, but what, a day or two?
Right. I even wrote in my notes, is this even possible? Yeah. And they found him to be healthy. They sent him home. Chris confronted her, demanding to see his baby, and she again told him that it wasn't his baby. And then she was like,
she threatened him with a restraining order, didn't she, at that time, or was that later?
I don't know. I don't remember, but I know
think it was then that she threatened him with a restraining order.
Mm-hmm. So he said he could only like watch him through the window, which again, I just don't understand these guys that just allow that to happen. Like, you can go to court. I don't know.
Let her call the cops. That's my kid.
Right.
Because then he could have forced them to do a DNA test to prove that it was his kid, and it would have been proven or a liar had he done that.
Right.
I mean, hindsight's 20/20, I guess.
So then she starts posting pictures of John and Garnett, calling them brothers. And her husband went on a double date with her and Chris. She took Christmas pictures of them together. Like, they love you. And it's like, oh, they love each other so much. Brotherly love. Like, crazy lady.
And he's like 20 days old.
Right. So the day after Christmas, she takes him back to the ER. So now he's less than 20 days old.
Right.
She's claiming he's sick again. And they gave him an IV of fluids because he was dehydrated. And she obviously, so that's where the pictures of him being sick started. She took pictures of him showing an IV coming out of his arm, all that, and posted all those.
And Dr. Fetterman seems to think that that's very odd. To him, that is the first sign that she, even with when he had feeding tubes and stuff like that, and she was posting pictures because he felt like normal parents would have removed the tubes and taken pictures. I don't know. I'm torn on that one because I've had kids sick in the hospital.
Well, my daughter takes pictures of herself in the hospital.
Right. And I mean, my son had surgery on his shoulder. He had a torn labrum from playing baseball, and I took pictures with him hooked up because I'm like, oh, look how cute. Oh, my baby,
I think it's like if you're posting one picture or 2 pictures, that's
I think maybe he's talking about the 5 years with Garnett and the numerous constant hospitals and doctors and posting pictures of it. Maybe all of that together, maybe is what he's talking about. I don't know, but I don't know that I wouldn't want to judge anybody for taking pictures of their kid, putting them that they're in the hospital, putting it on Facebook or MySpace.
Well, I think, like I said, I think it's the fact of the sheer number of it. Like, that's what she was doing. You can tell it's an attention-seeking thing. To post one picture of your kid and be like, oh, my poor kid, I just had to take him back to the hospital. I've done that. You've done that. Everybody's done that. Like I said, my daughter takes pictures of her damn self in the hospital, which I don't understand at all. I'm like,
I do that. When I'm in the hospital, I'm like, here we go again.
Right. I'm like, what are you doing? But, I think it's the sheer number. She was posting hundreds of pictures. Like, and that does speak to me. And that speaks to me in a way of like, okay, you're supposed to be there taking care of your child, right? You're supposed to be concerned for your child, taking care of your child. And meanwhile, you're posting 367 pictures of him, in different poses with this IV. Like, that's where I think that, the problem is. I have a friend whose daughter just had 2 babies, twins that were born early and were in the hospital. I mean, she posted a couple pictures of them, but not an entire album that she entitles, my babies are in the hospital, and posts, 500 pictures. I think that's what Feldman is saying is the difference is the amount,
right, possibly.
And it's clearly attention seeking.
Well, I just don't want people to see somebody posting a picture of their child in the hospital and automatically, oh my God, they're hurting their child, because that's not necessarily always the case.
Right.
But
so
doctors and officials need to err on the side of caution a little bit more.
Right. So in January of 2009, she began taking them to the Decatur General Hospital or Urgent Care Daily.
It's called the Southern Rural Health Care Clinic.
No, that's the other one.
Is that the other one?
There's
I thought
two
that
of them.
Was it that one too?
No. There's the Decatur General, and then there's the Southern, the one that you mentioned. Say that again. The
Southern Rural Health Care Center.
That might be the urgent care.
Maybe.
But I know that there was 3 different places that I've heard in this time period that she was going through. So, and she was complaining that he was not eating, that he was vomiting, he's bleeding from the ears. Again, like this is the same thing that the other babies that she had been taking care of had been clean.
Right.
So there was a pediatrician,
Melissa Young King.
Right, and she saw him several times. She said she never saw him vomit. She could not account for the chronic ear infections. And on January 13th, she wrote in a chart that she suspected Munchausen by proxy. So this is 20 days in.
He's not even a month old. No, he's a month and 10 days.
Month and 10 days old at this point.
Right.
No, 6 days old. A month and 6 days old. He's born December 3rd. This is January 10th. No.
This is January 13th that she did it. So a month and 10 days.
Month and 10 days, right.
And already suspecting Munchausen by proxy.
Right. And she said that she thought it was odd. Yeah, I know. And that's crazy to write it in that soon and still nothing happens.
Well, I mean, and and we're going to get into this here as we keep going, they do report it.
Yeah.
They've reported it multiple times. I think but there's like 3 or 4 times that they've reported her to, and I believe in that area it's called DCFS. Am I correct? Department of Children and Family Services.
No.
I know where I'm at CPS. No. I know every area is different.
No, okay. It's Department of Health Resources down there.
Okay, DHR then.
DHR.
But they reported several times.
Yes.
And this was the first, and he's literally a month and 10 days on his first reporting, and I don't know why.
Well, okay. Well, this is what they did. So first of all, the doctor said also that she thought that it was so odd that Lacey was really well versed in medical terminology and child illnesses specifically.
Right.
And she said that she couldn't remember, but either Lacey claimed she was a nurse or she was in school for nursing, which at this time Lacey had already left college.
Right. She'd already dropped out.
Right. Okay. So, and
I also have here that it's noted that Lacey was overly emotional, distraught, and demanding.
Yes.
And that she voiced concerns all the time about things, and they said that she presented a high-risk red flag.
Right. So on the 14th, which is just one day later, she verbalized she wanted to harm Garnett. And she was referred to the medical social services. So this lady, Diane Moore, is the investigator for the Alabama Public Health Department of Parents and Children. She interviewed her the next day, and she did not appear to be attentive or have great care for her child, she wrote. And over the next few months, now this is the one that got me. I just think this is
where, and I have another part on this, so go ahead on yours. I've got
over the next few months,
in here.
Moore visited her home many times, but Lacey was always gone and never returned her phone calls. So her case
closed.
Yep, case was closed because she could not investigate any more child abuse.
What the heck? That you want to hurt your child and aren't showing them being a loving mother. I can't find you, so hell with it. I'm just gonna close case. What? In the actual
loving fuck? Like, I'm sorry.
I actually have that here. I have that what in the actual fuck written here, but I'm trying to be nice and not say it.
No,
I'm like,
that's a definite would be a GF moment.
But then when they contact the department to ask them, I'm assuming that happened in the research of this case, they say, we couldn't locate the case. There's nothing in the records that this ever happened. That right there, what in the actual fuck?
I don't understand. And that's what, I mean, that's the same thing that happened with Gypsy, was
Right.
that, you know, they came out there, they didn't see anything, then, and they left.
They noticed that the records, the birth certificates were different, and they asked her, and she was, oh, they messed that up. They lost it in Katrina, and they messed that up. Oh, okay. They're running from the dad because he's abusive, blah, blah, blah. They don't look in anymore. Case closed, boom, out the door.
Right. Right. Same thing here, but except at least those people actually went to the house and saw her.
At least they actually talked to somebody. But I mean, this, I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
Where what we have been talking about, the platforms that Titania and I have been talking about this whole time.
Something's got to change.
There's got to be more education for social workers. I understand that they're overworked and underpaid, and they, you know, they do the best that they can with the most of this, and it's heartbreaking, and they are good people generally. You know, I mean, most of them really do care about the welfare of the children, but it's a broken system. You know,
and the system is overwhelmed, and it is. They are understaffed and underpaid. They really are. I mean, I don't want to knock them at all on that aspect, but I feel like the ones that are falling through the cracks are the ones that need their help the most.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, it needs to be more education. There's got to be more education on Munchausen by proxy, period. Period, the end, period. Because it's such a weird thing. And I've been really thinking about it. Like, this has been hard for me to understand, because I get other child abusers in the fact that most of those other child abusers, there are factors in there that you can understand the child abuse. They're either, you know, they're drunks, or they've been abused themselves, or it's through anger, you know. But this Munchausen by proxy, it's such an odd thing to think that they are she knowingly is poisoning her child.
Right. And that's just not, you can't comprehend that.
I don't comprehend it. I don't understand why a mother would be like, yeah, I'm totally going to go put salt packets in my kid's formula and then take them to the hospital. It doesn't make sense to me. And that's the thing that I've tried to wrap my head around with this Munchausen by proxy, because, you know, or now it's called factitious disorder upon another, but most people know what it is.
And I think that's where the medical field is struggling too, because they don't want to falsely accuse people, right? Because they're supposed to be helping, not harming, right? But in the end, I mean, people are dying. Children are dying because we're not reporting. And then when we do report, those mandated people do not understand what they're looking at and how to go about things, right? And how to protect the children, right? And that's where things have to change. Absolutely. Somewhere this has to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that it's not being focused on enough. I mean, I've seen in the last month at least 3 more cases that have just popped up in the news. You know, and it's scary. And so, so this lady's saying that she went out there, you know, over the next few months and she never saw Lacey. Well, here we are. Okay, so this is the 14th of January, right? Well, the 3rd week of January, she brings him back to the hospital again and claiming that he's projectile vomiting and not gaining weight. So wait a minute. What do you mean you couldn't find her? She's in the damn hospital.
But before she goes back in for that, a friend called because of her behavior in a parking EPS again.
Yes.
Because they're concerned for Garnett. So before she even goes back in, so wait, you can't find the woman. Her friend's reporting her again, and then she's in the hospital and nobody can find her?
Right.
What?
Well, okay. So that happens in February. That was in Walmart in February in the parking lot. But before that, so he gets, at 6 weeks old, he is diagnosed with acid reflux and the surgery is scheduled. But they didn't know. So this is the other hospital. So they didn't know that Decatur Hospital had concerns about Garnett. But they did place him on a 24 observation away from Lacey, and she was really mad. But just a few weeks later, Lacey's posting pictures on MySpace of Garnett recovering. So,
well, at 9 weeks is when they diagnosed him with failure to thrive.
Right.
They did that at 9 weeks.
Well, before that, he had the, so 3 days after the Walmart incident where they called DHR again, He undergoes the niacin phenoplication. I can never say that, and I can link to some information about it. Colleen actually talked about that in our special that we did when we did the whole thing about Gypsy's feeding tube. She explains exactly what this is, and I'm going to let you guys go and find that video. It'll be linked in our description, because I can't even begin to tell you how to explain what that is, but it has to do with the reflexes and the G-tube and all of those different things. There was also, right before that, there was a girl who had gone to dinner with Lacey, and mind you, he is in between 6 and week 8 and 9 weeks right now, and she actually pops him on the leg for acting out, and she tells him that and she gives him a spanking for absolutely no reason. He is 6 to 9 weeks old, and she's spanking a child. Like, what?
Maybe that's the one I have written. Maybe I have that one confused with the second report. That may have been the second report.
Yeah, that's the second. Yeah, that might be.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I have second report, and that's all before 9 weeks.
Yes.
So that would have been that incident.
Yep. And then, he undergoes that niacin thing, and she takes him to the Huntsville Pediatrics I can never say that word.
Gastroenterologist? That
Yes.
one?
Gastroenterologist. That's what it is. And his name was Dr. Randall McClellan, and he diagnoses him with failure to thrive and acid reflux. And at his request, Dr. James Gilbert did that niacin procedure. And that's
which is where they prevent them from throwing up.
So I guess what they do is they take a piece of the stomach lining and they wrap it around the esophagus in some way, and then they cut it. Yeah, I don't know. But again, like I said, Colleen does a much better job of explaining what that is. So that's okay. So then she takes him back to the Southern Rural Healthcare, and she sees Dr. Adrian Schuler. See, all these doctors, different doctor every time. She's seeing different doctors and telling them all different things. And now she's claiming that he's refusing to take the bottle. And the doctor witnessed he wouldn't feed from the bottle that Lacey had. So he's sent to Decatur Hospital to have a nasal feeding tube inserted. And so on February 11th.
And there's tons of pictures of that with the nasal feeding tube in all over MySpace.
All over MySpace. So then on February 11th, she brings him to the Decatur Hospital again. So see, she's bouncing back between these 3 different places.
Right.
So that she can continue to do more things without them knowing what's happened in the other thing. And if she's not telling them that she had anything done somewhere else, they won't know, because she's so long, they wouldn't even.
Well, back at this time, they didn't have the automatic, the computer system that links you in for different hospitals, where when they pull your name and your info up, now when they pull your name and info up, it pops up, you were at this hospital, and this is your doctor, and they can see all that. Right. Well, they didn't have that in that time.
Being so young, they're probably not thinking that they need to pull a thing from anywhere else.
Full medical history, right? By this time, this baby's already had more procedures than most adults have ever had in their lives.
Right. So now she's again saying that he's refusing to take formula. So later, when Dr. Schuler is interviewed by the detective, she says that a nurse was finally successful in feeding the infant from Lacey's bottle. But then he became lethargic when he asked Lacey about it. She said it was improper formula, but the blood test showed the sodium levels were at around 180. Now, that's interesting to note, because when he passed away, his sodium levels were at the same
180.
Exact level.
Sodium 182, 182. No, then you need to repeat it. Okay, that's impossible.
So that's meaning, that to me means that she was probably, even at 6 to 9 weeks, putting that same amount of salt in those formulas as she did when he was 5,
Right, which is scary, because at this point, he's had the surgery, he can no longer throw up.
Right, and he
can't get anything out of his system, which is what your body would do with the sodium. You automatically try to sponge it and get it out. He can't,
because it's like poison.
He can't throw that. Right.
Yeah. So he begins having seizures. He's intubated and airlifted to Alabama Children's Hospital in Birmingham, and she flies down with him. By the time they arrived in Peds, his sodium had fallen to 165. So they had been successful in ridding his body of some of it through fluids and all of that. But he was severely dehydrated and he was in shock. So this new doctor, Robert Pass, treated, and he was so worried about brain damage, they put him on a spinal tap, and they also treated him with IV fluids. So then at this time, he is diagnosed with hypernatremia, and they put him on a plan to slowly lower his sodium levels by using IV fluids, and then it was like half dextrose and half saline. And her sister visited her there, and they actually took pictures of her sister holding him up with the tubes and all of that stuff too. So, I mean, we're barely 2 months in at this point, 3 months in at this point. I mean, so, so that was the 11th. They flew him down there. On the 13th, he was transferred out of the PICU, and he was put on the general floor where he spent 11 days.
I think it's important to note that the medical staff say they never, ever, ever had issues feeding him. That he would eat, he would hold it down, he would act normal. And so they never once noticed all these claims of him not being able to eat. And that whole time they had him.
In fact, in this 11-day period, this new doctor, Sarah Tucker, is assigned, and she puts him on a 2-day study where he's away from Lacey, and I'm sure she's flipping the hell out. And
can you imagine the fit she was throwing?
Yeah, right. So she's saying that. So this is what they said. They did not have any problems in this 2-day study. No feeding issues. They test run to diagnose why Garnett's sodium levels were so high, since they didn't appear to be a cause, and the tests made no sense. The MRI, the CAT scan, and even the gastrointestinal scan all came back normal, which means they could not figure out an explanation for this. And that is one of the main indicators of Munchausen by proxy or factitious disorder, is that the tests all come back normal. So they're having these symptoms.
Nothing fits. Nothing. The puzzle pieces do not fit.
Right. No medical reasoning for what is happening. Nothing that they can detect. So let's see. So on February 14th, she is posting pictures of her sister holding Garnett and talking about, oh, he's sick for Valentine's Day, my poor Valentine. And Amanda Hunt, who was one of the ones that had taken her baby from Lacey, that was watching him and thought it was odd and all these different things. That was where the grandmother had stepped in. She saw those pictures and she immediately wondered what was Lacey doing to make her kids sick. And the hospital was so worried, they quarantined him again for another 4 days. And none of those nurses had any issues feeding her.
Well, and they, they did the genetic testing, and along with all that other testing to see why he was a failure to thrive.
Yep.
And nothing came back. Nothing. I mean, there was absolutely zero abnormalities.
Well,
in
the testing. So then what they do is Dr. Pass asks her how she's feeding him, and she said she was using her breast milk.
This gets me.
I know. She said she was using her breast milk diluted with Pediasure to prevent dehydration.
Pedialyte.
No, it's Pediasure first, and then she says the next thing is she was also giving him half-strength formula. So she's diluting the breast milk with Pediasure, and then she's giving him a formula, and she's diluting that with Pedialyte. And she claims she's doing this on a doctor's orders, but the doctor does not believe her. He's like, no doctor would suggest diluting breast milk to that extent. It could cause electrolyte abnormalities and malnutrition. Hello,
well, she was doing it 3 parts water to 1 part of the milk.
Yeah,
is what she was diluting it to.
Well, there you go. There's your failure to thrive right there. I mean,
Well, and that's where the
he's not
salt
getting
intake is
enough.
coming from. Pedialyte has a lot of sodium.
It does. It does. So the next day, they just release him.
Well, I love this. They have it noted in the chart. We're concerned about her Lacey's ability to care and feed for Garnett. Oh, but guess what? We're sending him home with his mother, who can't feed him and take care of him.
Right, and they're still baffled why his sodium levels are high.
It's what? I do not understand this
They
at all.
even notated in the chart in 2015 that so they told this to them, when all this happened, that she was concerned mother was adding salt to his formula. And they notated that very salty feedings would induce vomiting, but due to his recent surgery, he would be unable to do so. And the poison would be trapped in his body. And that giving the large quantities of diluted formula to babies with high serum sodium levels could result in retaining water. It can cause the brain to swell. It can actually cause death of brain cells and even raise the protein levels of cerebral serum fluids. So, I mean, this is as far as I've gotten, except for one last thing, and it's
I have a few that I want.
Well, this is the last thing I've gotten to. I didn't get through 7 like you, so I'll let you talk about those. But the last thing that I had is that she goes out to lunch with a friend, Kara, just
a few days
after
days after his discharge.
Yep. Okay, and this is the weirdest thing. I'm telling you. I have no earthly idea why anyone would be doing this. To remind you, this is a 9-week-old baby, okay? And Kara thought this was odd because she knew about his recent surgery, but she was putting hot sauce in his mouth. What? What? I don't know.
Why would anybody, common sense. Teenagers who have had children know that a 9-week-old baby does nothing but formula or breast milk. You wouldn't even, most of us don't follow the normal rules on feeding our children, so we're feeding mashed potatoes at 6, 7 months old. I know
that my daughter,
9 weeks and you're giving him salsa.
Right. Well, my oldest daughter, she had a milk allergy that we didn't know about when she was born. So we went through all this crap with her projectile vomiting and everything. Mind you, none of this shit was done to her, and she was very much okay.
All of mine were major vomiting babies, and I didn't have them do this crap.
The one thing that we did was we put a very small amount of cereal, the baby cereal,
right. Yeah, we did that. Taking the milk up with the baby cereal.
With just a tiny bit, because it was, the doctor, was telling me that it would give her a little more weight and it might settle the stomach more. And once we figured out that, the milk was the problem, which we did quite quickly, we fixed that, but we still were giving her just a little bit because she was so hungry all the time because she would eat and throw up and eat and throw up and eat and throw up.
Right.
So we were trying to give her
But baby cereal is a lot different than salsa.
Hot sauce.
Wow. I think I probably slapped her. Chick, what the hell is your problem?
I would have called 911 right in front of her. Hello.
Right.
I'm sitting here with my friend, and she is giving her 9-week-old baby salsa, and he just got.
By the way, right? He just got to the hospital.
You please come get this woman. She's freaking crazy. And I know you all don't like the word cray cray, but
she is cray cray. I am sorry.
That
woman.
That is. And obviously, yes, she obviously has some sort of mental problems, obviously, but damn. Whew.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got some more, because that's where I
have some more. I'm just going to touch it because you haven't gotten there yet, so I won't go into the 4 pages I have left.
I need to know.
Okay. So, they go back to the hospital, and I didn't write the date down. Why did I not write the date down? It wasn't long after all this. He's got blood in both ears again. Dr. Schuler notifies DSF again about the concerns. Yeah. Dr. Judy Collier got in on the case then. I think she is a specialist for the ear, nose, and throat thing, and they're like, we can't figure out these ears, bring her in. She immediately notes that she suspects Lacey for being responsible for the ear infections because they can't ever clear them up.
Did she say what she thought that was causing them?
They don't know. They literally say, we do not know what's causing these, other than it's got to be the mother, because he's been on medication by this point for the ear infections.
I want to know what can cause ear infections that you can forcefully cause. I'm going to notate that. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to find out, guys, what different things she could.
Right, because this is one of her concerns was she's like, this should have been cleared up, if not completely, at least showing signs of improving, and there's none. He's still got blood in both ears. He's still very sick. And she asked this doctor, or the doctor asked her about the dad. We aren't talking about the dad. We don't talk about the dad. And so I found that funny because I'm just like, huh. But then within a matter of time, she's like, Blake is the daddy. And his daddy's name is Blake, and he was a cop killed in the line of duty, and his family owns a daycare center. So we're not talking about the dad, but the dad's makes you do this number. So on April 6th, they go in, Dr. Copeland operates on the ears. They do the ear surgery. 5 weeks later,
they have no reason why it's happening, but they go ahead and do the ear surgery.
Right. They go in, I guess they're putting tubes in, I believe is what it was.
Do you know, okay, I've told you about my oldest daughter. From the age of 0 to 5, my daughter had chronic ear infections. No reason. I couldn't, no matter what happened. The wind blew wrong, chronic ear infection. She got in a pool with me, ear infection. Right. And it was to the point where I was like, I was arguing with doctors, like physically in offices screaming, what in the ever loving hell is wrong with my kid? Why is she having these?
A few years worth. Right.
No one would listen. They didn't do anything. They just send me on my way with some antibiotics and
here this baby is.
And so when she
January,
finally
February, March, April, he is 4 months old.
Right. When she got her tubes, when my daughter got surgery. When she got her tubes, my daughter was 6, and I finally got a doctor who said, "Oh my God, she should have had these 3 years ago. There is so much scarring on your child's ears. She will be permanently hearing damage for the rest of her life. I am so sorry that nobody did anything. I don't know why they did not help you." So here I am, a mom who's trying to figure out what's wrong with my kid and get this surgery. Nope.
Right. And here this baby is 4 months. We're not talking years of fighting an ear infection. We're talking this baby's 4 months old. And we're doing surgery. Second surgery.
And knowing
he's already had the one.
Right. And knowing
he's had 3. This is third, didn't it? He had the reflux, then he had the stomach thing to keep him from throwing up, and then the ears.
He also had the G-tube put in.
Okay, so 4.
4.
What in the actual hell?
And we know that there's no reason for it, but instead we're doing the surgery instead of investigating more or removing him from the home or I don't know, anything other than freaking let's just go ahead and do a surgery on the kid, even though we
well, and here we are.
Something's happening.
We're on April 6th, they do the surgery. 5 weeks later, Dr. Copeland refers her to Dr. Morgan for a second opinion because things aren't any better. So we've had the surgery, we're not any better. 5 weeks later, we sent to another specialist. And Dr. Morgan, Dr. Copeland, reports to Dr. Morgan, and they state in the report, suspected Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
This is the second.
So Dr. Copeland is sending to Dr. Morgan, but in Dr. Copeland's notes, they suspect Munchausen by proxy, but do nothing about it. It's just in the freaking notes. to the next doctor. I am floored.
I am too, because these kids are dying, and these people, and you know, I don't know I don't know whether I should blame the doctors or not blame the doctors, or blame DCFS or don't blame DCFS, or it's like, who do you blame in this situation?
Somebody, they're not communicating completely, and when they do communicate, there's no follow through. And in all honesty, the first report should have never been closed without thoroughly checking that child and that mother out. We probably wouldn't be at any of these cases had they done that. Had they been watching them like a hawk and making sure.
Doctors, you know, at least these doctors are notating it.
Right.
And
in Gypsy's case, one doctor noted it.
Well, in Gypsy's
Nobody
case,
else.
they're like, oh, the lab reports don't show what we want it to. Oh, well, gonna operate anyway.
Right.
I don't understand it. I don't understand. At least in this case, they're notating it, but they're still not doing enough. This
right.
is so hard.
Well, and then this is where it gets to the really good part that I wanted to bring up, because if you haven't heard it yet, so this is going to get you.
I don't know if I
can write in
anymore.
We have a whole lot more. They write in here, red flag. Fresh blood in the ears that was noted the same as it once was a month prior, and it should have healed. So they're concerned because they've had surgery. It's still exactly like it was before surgery. There's no healing. Nothing's helped. So what is going on? So he's now 6 months old. Okay. We're back at the hospital for dehydration due to vomiting. Let me see if you catch that real quick. So again, back at the hospital for dehydration due to vomiting. Now, hadn't this baby already had a surgery to keep him from vomiting?
That they said he was
not supposed to be able to vomit because of the first surgery or second surgery, whatever number that was, to prevent him from vomiting because he was failure to thrive. So now he's 6 months old and he's vomiting and dehydrated, he's dehydrated due to vomiting, so he's back in the hospital.
Which is what he eventually dies from, is because the fact that he couldn't throw up the salt intake, and he the seizures.
The video shows him gagging and trying to get that out. He couldn't throw up. But she takes him to the hospital. I didn't write that down. I didn't. When this part came out, that was all I heard. Because I literally have, it's like this big written, what in the actual fuck, across that. Because he wasn't, I'm so confused. I'm so confused. And then she would continue to tell them that he was throwing up, and no one ever seen it. None of the nurses, none of the doctors, never seen it, but she would always say he's throwing up.
Wait a minute, but wouldn't they at that point see even the scar from the surgery?
You would think that would be in records they would have pulled. If he's in the hospital, they're going to pull up and see. Well, I mean, I don't know. You would think that somehow or another they would see he's had this surgery. He shouldn't be throwing up.
I mean, we're still in Alabama at this point, right? We've not moved.
Right. Yeah. No, we're still in Alabama. So at one point, it says during one of the hospital stays, she told the nurse that he vomited all over his bed. One of the nurses come in there to help her. He was really sick. He had vomited. Come in here. The nurse goes in there. She checks it. There's no vomit. It's water poured in the bed. She had poured water and claimed it was him throwing up. And he was perfectly fine, sitting there being a normal baby.
I'm done.
That's where I had to get to, because I'm like, oh no, we got to go here. We got to go here. Yeah.
Well, guys, anyway, okay, so we've requested the records. I was told they're very extensive, so we're waiting for the police department and the courts to get them back to us.
And if it's any more than this book, I don't know if I can handle any more.
I kind of just want to see it for myself. Like,
right. And you know, we've said it a couple times amongst ourselves. We thought we had seen everything with Gypsy Rose. And this case right here is proven we ain't seen jack shit.
Well,
This
it's so different. That's the thing. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why we've questioned so much with Gypsy, because Gypsy's is not this way. Okay. There isn't like, violently ill things like this in her case.
right.
There is no poisoning. There is no, oh my God, she's in here for dehydration.
There was just a major manipulation of the system with
Yes.
Gypsy.
Yes. You know, even with Gypsy, the things that none of the lab reports come back showing that she is anything. She never went in like for dehydration, or even when she took her in for seizures, they would run tests and it didn't appear that anything really was going on. So Dee Dee wasn't actually like forcefully making her physically ill. I mean, she lied about all of it. And I'm sure she gave her medications through the feeding tubes and things like that to present problems, you know, but they were in all actuality minor symptoms of something that would be a larger problem.
Right.
Okay. Like the
drug. Right. Where these children and the few of the other cases that we've looked at, they were made extremely sick and poisoned by different means. And I mean,
and
really,
that's
really
even more baffling to me than the Gypsy case,
right.
Because, like I said, I don't understand how you can stand there and know that you're putting this salt in your baby's formula, and then turn around and be like, "Oh, I don't know, he's throwing up." Bitch, please.
Right. Well, and I mean, you stop and think about it. If you salt your food too much, you can't eat that. That's why he baby wasn't eating. It was salty and it was gross. And
right. That's like I'm saying, the
it.
baby would know the taste of it and be like, meh,
right.
Meh, meh. You
right.
know, like, it just, I thought we'd seen so much in Gypsy's case, and we have. I mean, Gypsy's case is rare.
We've seen a totally different type that is, and it makes it very hard for people to understand that it is still Munchausen by proxy.
I really think hers is more malingering than anything else. Like, I think the medical was a means to her getting funding and not have to work and scamming and all of that. I think that was Dee Dee's main thing, because she did all that before her daughter was born. She wrote fraudulent checks and she stole people's, you know, checks out of their mailbox and tried to get credit opened up in her mom and dad's name. And so I think that was really a lot of what we were seeing with Dee Dee, was a lot of the malingering. Munchausen was the way she was using it was medical abuse, you know, because that's what she knew how to do. And I feel like it made it much more sympathetic. So, I mean, so I feel like that was really a bigger case of malingering than anything else. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a professional, but it's just my
assessment. But as we finish uncovering all that, I guess people will get to hear what we've got to say and listen to what we've got to say and judge for themselves.
Right. So on October 31st, we'll be dropping at least, and I say at least, at least 3 episodes on Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
My votes are going to be 4, but we'll see.
I think there might be 5, to be honest with you.
Possibly.
But at least 3 will be dropped on October 31st. We will go live here on this channel to do a introduction and, you know, a fun thing and talk about it. And I think we'll do some giveaway at that point. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do a giveaway.
I was going to try to show the cup that I was giving away for the best question, but it's not dry. I just put a label on it today. So it's,
so we've gotten 1 question sent in to us. And so we're going to continue.
Well, don't let her be the only one. Y'all better send some questions in.
You guys better, and it's a good question, so y'all better get some questions in. Now you can go ahead and go to our Anchor app, anchor.fm/truecrimewives. And you can listen to I think it's like 18 minutes. It's the trailer that we did to kind of talk about what we were going to do in the series, you know, and you can go in there, you can leave us a message. We're sorting through and putting them into the Gypsy podcast that we're going to be doing. So you can do that. And then obviously you're following us here on Sundays here on Murder by Design to start to get into Susan Powell. Because I've got 9 million notes on that. And that's a crazy, interesting case. I mean, if you don't know what it is, I mean, she was a
young mom,
very, very involved in
Church of Latter-day Saints.
Yes. And she went missing. They've never found her. And since then, the father has taken his own life and the life of her 2 sons. It's a really sordid story. There's an amazing podcast that was done on it called Cold that we've been listening to. I got Brandy hooked on that one.
I needed another one. And
I called to get the case files on that, and the lady laughed. She just started laughing, and she goes, "You do realize that there is over 3,000 files, not papers, files." And I was like, "Oh my God." She goes, "Yeah, okay, so what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to send in a thumb drive. And once you send in a thumb drive, we'll load the thumb drive, we'll send it back to you because it's just way too much for us to even try to send any other way." And so I'm doing that this weekend. I'm going to take it, send them the thumb drive, and hopefully we'll get it back pretty quickly because it's just a matter of them downloading it on the thumb drive and putting it in there. We are taping a lot of our podcasts this week. So, we're just trying to get it all out there for you guys. And then eventually we'll get into a real schedule of things. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We are I'll drop a link to the Amazon book for John Glatt that we've been reading for the Lacey Spears case.
It's really good.
I'm going to link to the earlier episode in the Gypsy playlist that we did about feeding tubes. Please, I'm sorry if the quality is not amazing. Those were just Facebook Lives that we did. We really had never really meant for them to be all the way out here in the public, but it does have good information in there. So, and there's a lot of us answering people's other questions and we get sidetracked, but Colleen did a really great job of giving some information in there. So I definitely think that if you want to know more about the feeding tubes and that type of the niacin, whatever, surgery that Garnett had, you can get a lot of information about that there. And then, of course, thank you and keep coming back. You guys can always get more information, some more inside stuff. We put a lot of documents and crime scene photos, and we do some extra little lives, and we'll be doing some miniature podcasts and things for our Patreon members. Basically, that supports this podcast and this live that we're the videos that we do here on our YouTube channel. It helps us. We're hoping to get some microphones soon. I'm hoping to get like a better ring light so that you guys can get better quality of things. And it continues to help us to be able to get case files and do investigations and things like that. So patreon.com/truecrimedocs. So you guys can help us out there. We have $1 membership. We also have 5, 10, 15, 20. You guys will get some great merchandise if you pick the higher levels, and you get some early.
This is our coffee cup that we're giving.
That is super cute. And we have a couple of those going out this week.
Yeah, so.
And then, you can get early release of our videos and some of that stuff. So help us out and support us if you enjoy what you're hearing here. And if there is a case that you would like us to work on or investigate.
As overwhelmed as we are with every other case, send them to us.
If you have questions and you don't want to actually have to record your voice, that's good too. You can do that. You can send us an email at goodwivesdish@gmail.com. And we will be using some of those to answer questions on the podcasts as well. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Night, guys.